The phone buzzed just as Owen lifted his champagne glass. "To generosity," he said. He was smiling at me, but his mother smiled first. Our old shared phone lay face up between the bread plate and the little vase of rosemary on our anniversary table. We kept it for restaurant reservations, household apps, music, and every password Owen swore he would remember later. The screen lit before his toast was finished. "Thank you, Owen. I still can't believe you're giving me the whole $78,400. Darlene says the transfer clears Monday. The shop is finally mine. Tell Claire I'll never forget this." The message was from Tessa Lane, Owen's ex-wife. I read it without blinking. Then I looked at my husband and asked, "How does Tessa know exactly how much is in my savings account?" His glass remained in the air. That was the question he hadn't prepared for. Around us, LaRue hummed with low conversation and silverware against white china. It was the kind of restaurant where the servers folded your napkin if you got up. Owen had reserved our usual corner table, ordered the champagne I liked, and complained only once about the price of the halibut. Until that text, the strangest part of the evening had been Darlene's presence. She'd claimed she had a gift she wanted to give us in person. The gift, a silver picture frame, was still in its bag under her chair. "Owen," I said. He lowered his glass. "It's not what it sounds like." Darlene gave a small, irritated sigh. That expression should be banned. It always sounds worse than the thing itself. "What transfer?" Owen set down his glass carefully enough to tell me he was afraid of breaking it. "I was going to explain tonight." "You were explaining it to me with a toast?" "It was supposed to be a good thing." "For whom?" Darlene reached for the phone. I put my hand over it. Her fingernails stopped an inch from mine, painted the pale pink she called neutral, and everyone else called pink. "Claire," she said, in the calm voice she used when she believed I was embarrassing myself, "Tessa has an opportunity to buy bellwether flowers. The owner is retiring. It's a wonderful little business, but the financing came up short." I kept looking at Owen. And she has until Monday," he said. "And?" His mouth tightened. Darlene answered for him. "And you have money, sitting in an account, doing nothing." The server appeared with our appetizers. 3 small plates arranged like exhibits. Burrata with roasted tomatoes for me, crab cakes for Owen, onion soup for Darlene. He set them down while silence pressed against the tablecloth. "Is there anything else I can bring you?" he asked. I almost admired his refusal to notice the fire. "No, thank you," Darlene said brightly. "Everything is perfect." When he walked away, I turned the shared phone toward Owen and tapped the message. "Did you promise my savings to your ex-wife?" "I promised her a bridge loan. You promised her the whole balance. It won't be the whole balance permanently." "That sentence doesn't mean anything. The shop has assets, inventory, contracts. Tessa can repay us once she's operating." Darlene unfolded her napkin across her lap. "She has an excellent head for business." "So excellent that a bank won't lend her the money?" "That's unnecessary," Owen said. I laughed once. It came out harder than I expected. His eyes flicked toward the neighboring tables. Owen hated public scenes, including scenes that consisted of his wife speaking at a volume everyone else used for ordering soup. I leaned closer. "You scheduled a transfer from our account without asking me." "It's a joint account. It's my savings. We're married." "Then why did Tessa thank you?" His face changed. Not much, just enough. Darlene picked up her soup spoon. "Because Owen is the one who told her the news. She can thank you separately if proper distribution of gratitude is the issue. The issue is that I earned that money. And Owen earned the life that allowed you to save it." Owen closed his eyes briefly. "Mom." "No, she wants to make this ugly, so let's at least be honest." Darlene set down her spoon without tasting the soup. "Tessa supported Owen when he was building Mercer Custom. She paid rent. She helped in the office. She drove me to every appointment after my hip surgery. She put years into this family, and she left with less than she deserved. I stared at her. You invited yourself to our anniversary dinner to tell me I owe my husband's ex-wife $78,000? I was invited, she said. Owen rubbed his thumb along the stem of his glass. There it was. A tiny movement, almost nothing. But I had watched that thumb worry the edges of invoices, estimates, and overdue notices for 8 years. He had invited her because he wanted backup. Darlene continued, You benefited from what Tessa helped build. Repaying some of that is not theft. It's decency. Repayment for what? For what you owed our family. I turned to Owen. Do you believe that? He looked tired now, which was impressive. I had discovered less than 3 minutes ago that he'd given away the money I'd spent 9 years saving, and somehow the evening was already exhausting him. I believe Tessa got a raw deal, he said. I believe I owe her something. Then give her something of yours. Everything I have is ours. Except when it belongs to Tessa. Darlene pushed her plate away. This is why he didn't tell you sooner. I looked at her. She realized what she'd admitted and reached for her water. How much sooner? I asked. Owen leaned forward. Can we go home and talk? When did you promise her? Last week. My anniversary was on a Friday. The transfer cleared Monday. He had arranged his timing so I would have 1 weekend to object, and Tessa would have 1 weekend to lose her shop because of me. The waiter returned and asked whether we were enjoying the first course. Owen said, yes. I said, please cancel my entree. Claire. The waiter looked at Owen, then back at me. Just mine, I said. And could I get the check for my meal and my share of the champagne? Darlene's mouth fell open. It was the first satisfying thing that had happened all night. The waiter disappeared with the speed of a man who deserved a raise. You're leaving? Owen asked. I need to stop the transfer. You can't do that from your phone. I can call the bank. It's after 8. Then I'll find the number that answers after 8. Darlene sat straighter. Tessa has already signed a purchase agreement. With my signature? She relied on Owen's word. So did I. Owen reached for my wrist. He didn't grab it. He rested 2 fingers against my skin like he could still guide me away from a curb. Please, he said, give me an hour. You had a week. I needed to know it was possible. You needed to know what? He glanced at his mother. The answer moved across the table before either of them said it. The exact balance. I slid my wrist away. Our savings account had started as a place to keep the insurance payout after a hailstorm damaged the roof. We'd paid the roofer, left the account open, and begun using it for long-term goals. Over time, those goals had quietly divided. Owen's deposits came when the business had a good quarter. Mine came every payday, plus every annual bonus and every dollar from the consulting work I did on weekends. 3 years earlier, I'd named the account Runway in our budgeting spreadsheet. Owen teased me about it, but he knew what it meant. I wanted enough money to leave my corporate operations job and build a bookkeeping practice without panicking over rent in the first 6 months. Twice, I'd delayed that plan for Mercer Custom. The first time, a hotel renovation paid Owen 90 days late. The second time, a commercial saw broke and took 2 other machines with it. I moved money back into checking, then replenished it slowly. Owen had contributed $4,860 to the current balance. I knew because I kept records. He knew because I had shown them to him 6 months ago when he toasted my discipline with grocery store wine and said he was proud of me. The waiter brought a slim black folder. I put down my card. I drove, Owen said. I'll get a ride. Don't leave like this. There isn't a good way to leave this table. Darlene pulled the silver frame from under her chair and placed the bag beside me. At least take your gift. I looked inside. The frame held a photograph from our wedding, Owen and me under the arbor behind the old inn. Darlene stood between us, one arm around each of our waists. She had chosen a picture where her pale blue dress took up nearly as much space as mine. I already have a copy, I said. That isn't the point. I'm starting to understand the point. Outside, rain glazed the sidewalk and blurred the headlights on Madison Avenue. I stood beneath the restaurant awning with the shared phone in my hand, trying the bank's customer service line. Owen came through the door before the automated voice finished listing options. "Mom's taken a car home," he said. "That must be frightening for her." "What?" "Traveling without me arranging it." "Claire, stop." I pressed the phone to my other ear. "I'm waiting for an account specialist." He shoved his hands into his coat pockets. "The transfer is scheduled. It hasn't gone anywhere." "Good. You're not listening. Nothing has happened yet. You promised it." I made a commitment based on an asset we jointly own. The language was so unlike him that I pulled the phone away from my ear. "Who gave you that sentence?" He looked toward the rain. "Your mother? It's legally true." "Did you talk to a lawyer?" "No." "Did she?" "She talked to someone at her bank." I nodded slowly. Darlene did not improvise. She prepared. She saved appliance warranties in labeled envelopes and read restaurant menus before leaving home. If she had called her banker, this wasn't a reckless promise Owen had made to ease Tessa's panic. They had discussed what he could take before they told me what I owed. A woman from the bank finally answered. I gave her the account information and asked whether a pending external transfer could be canceled. She needed security questions, a verification code, and several minutes of hold music. Owen paced to the edge of the awning and back. "Tessa isn't some random ex," he said. "She helped me build everything." "So I've heard." I treated her badly at the end. I stared at him. It was the first honest thing he'd said. "How badly?" I was checked out long before I admitted it. She kept waiting for me to fix something I'd already left. "And this fixes it?" "No, but maybe it makes something right." "With my money. With our money." "Why didn't you sell the truck?" His head jerked back. "That's not the same." The truck was a restored 1972 Ford he drove on clear Sundays and talked about every day. He'd spent 4 years bringing it back to life, buying parts when cash was good and insisting it was an investment when cash was bad. He had refused an offer of $42,000 the previous spring. "It's yours," I said. "You love it. Selling it would hurt." "I use it for the business. You drove it to one trade show. It represents the work. My savings represent mine." The bank specialist returned. The transfer could be stopped, but because Owen was an authorized joint owner, he could schedule another. She suggested visiting a branch to discuss account options. "Stop this one," I said. Owen turned away. I completed the verification and listened as she read the confirmation number. For the first time all evening, my lungs seemed to open all the way. A small victory, but a real one. Owen waited until I hung up. "You just made me a liar." "No, I refuse to finance the lie. Tessa can lose the shop." "I didn't offer to buy her one." "She's counting on me." "I was counting on you." The rain had softened to a cold mist. Our car sat half a block away, but neither of us moved toward it. Finally, Owen said, "Come home, please. I'll show you everything." I should have taken a hotel room. I knew that later. But shock creates strange loyalties. The house still contained my clothes, my desk, my coffee mug beside his. Part of me believed the familiar shape of our life might make the evening less true. We drove home without speaking. The green glass bowl was the first thing I saw when Owen opened the front door. We'd bought it at a street fair during our first summer together. The artist had called the color bottle green, though in sunlight it looked almost black around the rim. Every evening I dropped my keys on the left side, and Owen dropped his on the right. The sound had become part of coming home, 2 bright taps against thick glass. Tonight, a third key lay between them. It had a strip of lavender tape around the top. Darlene's emergency key. I took off my coat but kept my purse on my shoulder. "When did she return this?" Owen followed my gaze. "Today, I guess." "You guess?" "She was here this afternoon." "Why?" "She brought the anniversary gift. The photograph she could have carried into the restaurant?" He loosened his tie. "She also picked up some papers for me." "What papers?" He walked toward the kitchen. I stayed beside the bowl. "Owen." He stopped with his back to me. The house was extremely quiet. Even the refrigerator seemed to be holding its breath. What did your mother pick up? My copy of the account statement. You don't have a copy. I do now. The lavender-taped key blurred beneath the entry light. My financial binder was kept in the bottom drawer of the desk in my office, not locked because I lived with my husband, not because I believed his mother had the right to search my home. You sent her into my office. I asked her to find one document. Did you tell her which drawer? She called me. Did she photograph the statement? He turned then. His expression was full of apology, but apology had become another way of asking me to absorb what he'd already done. She needed the exact number for Tessa's application, he said. I picked up the key. It was still warm from the house, smooth except where the lavender tape had begun to peel. Your mother went through my desk, I said, because you asked her to find out how much money you could promise your ex-wife. Owen opened his mouth. I closed my hand around the key. The question at the restaurant had been how he knew my balance. Standing beside our green glass bowl, I understood the worse question. How many doors in my own marriage had never actually been mine to close? He tried anyway. I didn't tell her to go through anything. I told her where the binder was. That's going through my desk. It's a desk in our house. My desk, my office, my records. You leave the door open. The words landed between us, absurd and revealing. I stared at him until he heard them too. That came out wrong, he said. No, I think it came out finished. I carried Darlene's key into my office. The bottom drawer stood slightly crooked. It did that when it was pulled too far because one of the rails had been bent during our last move. I always lifted the drawer before closing it. Darlene hadn't known. Inside, the blue financial binder was in the right place, but the elastic strap had been fastened backward. A bank statement lay on top instead of behind the account divider. There was a faint crescent of pink lipstick on the edge of the plastic sleeve. Owen stood in the doorway. You said one document. That is one document. She opened the binder to find it. She took the statement out to photograph it. She put it in a plastic sleeve. He rubbed both hands over his face. I don't know why she does every little thing she does, but you knew she would do it. What does that mean? You didn't come in here yourself because you knew I might see you. You sent your mother because entering rooms she doesn't belong in feels normal to her. That's not fair. Which part? He looked past me toward the drawer. I should have talked to you. Yes. I should have told Mom to stay out of your office. Yes. I'm saying I made a mistake. No, you're reducing a week of decisions to a mistake because singular sounds smaller. I removed the binder and set it on the desk. My hands had started shaking, so I pressed my palms against the wood. Show me the transfer. Owen hesitated. You said you'd show me everything. He went to the bedroom for his laptop. I heard drawers open, a hanger scrape along the closet rod, the ordinary noises of a man moving through a house where he'd just tried to give away most of a year's salary. He returned with the laptop and opened our bank account. The scheduled transfer was there, marked canceled. The destination wasn't Tessa's personal account. It was an escrow account connected to the flower shop purchase. Owen pointed at it as if the respectable destination made a difference. See? It wasn't going straight to her. How comforting. She has a business plan. Did you read it? Most of it. Did you show it to anyone? Mom looked it over. Your mother was an office manager for a dental practice. She handled budgets for 27 years. Then she can loan Tessa the money. His jaw hardened. Mom's condo is her security. My savings are mine. We keep circling the same sentence, because you keep walking around it. I clicked through the transfer details. It had been scheduled Wednesday afternoon. Tessa's name appeared in the memo beside the words, acquisition funding. Where were you Wednesday? I asked. At the Millbrook installation. You called me at lunch. I call you most days. You asked whether I still plan to resign next spring. He looked down. At the time, I'd thought he was checking in because I'd spent the previous night complaining about a restructuring at work. He had asked how much runway I needed, and I'd told him I could manage with 6 months if I signed 3 clients before giving notice. He hadn't been encouraging me. He'd been measuring how much taking the money would cost. "Did you ever intend to replace it before I left my job?" "Yes." "How?" "Mercer has 2 large bids out." "Bids. I expect to land one." "How much cash does the business have right now?" "That's separate." "Of course it is." He closed the laptop halfway. "I wasn't going to leave you with nothing. You were going to leave me dependent on your next good quarter. We're supposed to depend on each other. You made a major financial decision with your mother and your ex-wife, then planned to inform me when it was too late to say no. That isn't dependence. It's containment." His eyes flashed. "You think I'm trying to trap you?" "I think you were willing to." He sat in my desk chair, suddenly pale and rumpled. He was still wearing his anniversary suit, but his tie hung loose, and one cuff had come unbuttoned. I'd always loved the moment he came home from formal events and turned back into himself. That night, I wondered how long I had mistaken untidiness for honesty. "Tessa called Mom," he said. "She was desperate. The financing gap came up at the last minute. So your mother volunteered me. She said we could help. And you said yes. I said I'd look into it. The message said you promised." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I owe her, Claire. Then pay her." "I don't have $78,000. "Neither do I, according to you." For a second, neither of us spoke. Rain ticked against the office window. I picked up the binder. "I'm sleeping in the guest room," I said. "Claire, tomorrow I'm moving my contribution out of the joint account. I'll leave yours. You can't just divide money without discussing it." I waited. He shut his eyes. "Right," he said quietly. I heard it. At 9 the next morning, I was standing outside our bank with 2 other customers and a man who kept testing the locked door every 30 seconds as if the posted hours might surrender to persistence. I had slept for maybe an hour. Owen had knocked on the guest room door twice, first to offer water and later to tell me he loved me. I answered neither time. When the bank opened, I sat with a banker named Priya, who wore red-framed glasses and never once asked what my husband had done. She reviewed the deposits with me, opened an individual account, and transferred $73,540. I left Owen's $4,860 where it was. I also changed the contact information on every account that belonged solely to me and removed the shared phone as a recovery device. The process took 42 minutes. Owen was in the kitchen when I returned, making eggs he wasn't eating. He looked at the blue binder under my arm. "You moved it?" "Yes. All of it?" "I left your contributions." "You calculated them already?" "I keep records." "I know you keep records." The resentment in his voice surprised me. My records had saved his business from late fees, duplicate payments, and one truly inventive insurance audit. He loved them when they protected him. He hated them when they could distinguish mine from ours. He turned off the burner. "What do you want me to do?" "Tell Tessa the truth." "What truth?" "That I never agreed to fund the shop." "I can tell her we had a disagreement." "No, that makes it sound like we discussed it." "Do you want me to humiliate her?" "I want you to stop using her humiliation to control me." He flinched. I set the binder on the counter. "Your mother doesn't enter this house again unless I invite her. She doesn't have a key. She doesn't search for documents, pick up laundry, reorganize the pantry, wait for repairmen, or let herself in because she was nearby. She returned the key after using it. I'll tell her." "You'll tell her in front of me." His expression tightened, but he nodded. "We separate the business finances completely," I continued. "No more Mercer expenses through our household account. I'll hand over the books, and you'll hire someone." "I can't hire someone this week." "I'll give you 30 days. "You do the books." "I did the books." "You're going to walk away from 5 years of work because of one transfer?" I'm going to stop providing unpaid labor to a company you consider yours whenever there's profit and ours whenever there's trouble." He stared at the eggs cooling in the pan. "And counseling," I said. "Not with Darlene's pastor. A licensed counselor we choose together." "Fine." "Fine?" "Yes, Claire, fine. I'll do all of it." He agreed so quickly that hope rose in me before I could stop it. That was the humiliating part. Betrayal hadn't killed my hope. It had made hope desperate and cheap, willing to survive on one exhausted yes in a kitchen that smelled like burnt butter. Owen called Tessa that afternoon. He put the shared phone on speaker at my request, though he looked like I'd asked him to testify against himself. Tessa answered on the second ring. "Did it work?" she asked. "No," Owen said. "The transfer was canceled." Silence, then, "Why?" There was a miscommunication between Claire and me. I reached toward the phone. Owen caught my eye and shook his head. "What kind of miscommunication?" Tessa asked. I moved too fast. "Did she agree or not?" His mouth opened. I said, "I didn't know about it." The silence changed. Tessa's voice came back flatter. "I didn't realize I was on speaker." "I'm sorry," I said, "but I need this to be clear. Owen promised you money from an account I funded without asking me." "Owen told me you both had discussed helping." Owen leaned closer to the phone. I said I was sure Claire would understand. "No," Tessa said. "You said, we can cover the gap." Darlene's voice had been sharp the night before. Tessa's wasn't. She sounded stunned, which made the whole thing worse. "I signed the purchase agreement," she said. "I know," Owen replied. "The deposit becomes non-refundable Tuesday." "I know." "And you're telling me this now?" "I'm trying to find another solution. You already found one. Apparently it just belonged to someone else." She hung up. Owen stayed bent over the phone. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I saw the shape of his old marriage for one uncomfortable second. Tessa waiting for him to say the difficult thing. Owen delaying until every choice hurt someone. Darlene's apology arrived by text the next morning. "I'm sorry you felt your privacy was compromised. Owen asked me to retrieve a necessary family document, and I acted out of love. I hope, when emotions settle, you will recognize that Tessa's need is real and that generosity does not diminish you." I read it twice. Then I replied, "Please do not enter our house again without my direct invitation." 3 dots appeared, vanished, and returned. "I have returned the key." That wasn't an apology. It was inventory. On Monday evening, Owen placed takeout from my favorite Thai restaurant on the dining table. He had scheduled a counseling appointment for Thursday and printed a list of local bookkeeping services. "I'm trying," he said. "I see that." He almost smiled. That sounded dangerously close to encouragement. "Don't get reckless." He laughed, and I did too, before remembering I was angry. The laugh stayed between us, small and wounded but alive. For 4 days, he behaved like the version of himself I had married. He sent Tessa updates without making me responsible for her deadline. He told Darlene to give us space. He washed the coffee pot instead of leaving grounds in the sink like wet cement. At night, he slept in our bedroom while I slept in the guest room, both of us pretending the distance was temporary. Then Mercer's office manager, Gloria, called me during my lunch break. "Owen said you have the corrected vendor totals," she said. "They're in the bookkeeping folder." I found the old sheet. The new one isn't here. I opened my laptop. The corrected totals were exactly where I'd told Owen they would be, but he hadn't forwarded them. "I'll send them," I said, then stopped. This was how it worked. Owen forgot. Gloria called. I rescued. Nobody named the rescue because naming it might turn it into work. "I'll text Owen the location," I said. "He can send it." Gloria lowered her voice. "Are you two okay?" "We're reorganizing responsibilities." "Oh." A pause. That sounds expensive. Despite myself, I smiled. Probably. That evening, Owen wanted to know why I hadn't emailed Gloria. "Because they're your vendor totals. It would have taken you 30 seconds. It took me 30 seconds to tell you where they were. He pulled open the refrigerator harder than necessary. "This is punishment. This is the handoff you agreed to. You know the company can't function if you suddenly stop helping." Then my help had value. "I never said it didn't. You just never paid for it." He stood with the refrigerator door open, cold light across his face. "You're enjoying this," he said. I wasn't. That accusation almost drove me back into the old role just to prove it. Instead, I reached around him, took out the sparkling water I wanted, and closed the door. "No," I said. "I'm noticing it." The counseling appointment lasted 50 minutes. Owen spoke about guilt. I spoke about access. He said those were different subjects. The counselor asked why he thought that, and he spent so long answering that we ran out of time. When we got home, the green glass bowl was empty except for my keys. Owen had taken his truck to the shop that morning, so his everyday key ring should have been there. "Where are your keys?" I asked. "In my pocket." "Why?" He glanced at the bowl. I forgot to put them down. It was an ordinary answer. That was why I almost accepted it. The next Tuesday, while I was reviewing a distribution report at work, my phone displayed a motion alert from our front hallway. I opened the camera feed. Darlene stepped through the front door, closed it behind her, and stood beside the green glass bowl with a new brass key in her hand. For a moment, I only watched. Darlene set the key in the bowl, then picked it up again, as if she'd remembered it might leave evidence. She walked past the camera toward my office. I hit the microphone icon. "What are you doing?" She jumped so hard that one hand struck the wall. Her face appeared close to the camera as she backed into view. "Claire, you're being recorded. Why are you in my house?" "Owen asked me to pick something up. Leave. He needs the Mercer ledgers. Leave now. I'm not stealing anything. You have 30 seconds before I call someone to remove you." She stared at the camera, offended by the existence of consequences. Then she marched back to the door. "I don't appreciate being spoken to like this," she said. "You have 20 seconds. She left with the new key clenched in her fist. I called Owen. He declined the call. I tried again. This time he answered in a whisper. Machinery whined behind him. "I'm with a client." "Your mother just entered our house." A pause. I asked her to grab the ledgers. "You gave her another key." "I needed the payroll records. They're in the shared business folder. I need the signed vendor agreements too." "Then you should have gotten them yourself." "I'm an hour away." "So they wait an hour." "Claire, I can't do this right now. You promised she would not have a key. It's my key. It's a copy. I had one made in case of emergencies." Searching my office is not an emergency. She was retrieving my business property from my house. My house, too. Exactly. He said it with the sharp confidence of someone unveiling a winning argument. I looked at the paused camera image on my screen. Darlene's shoulder, the edge of her purse, the flash of brass in her hand. "Did you give her the key before counseling or after?" I asked. "What difference does that make?" "I want to know whether you lied to the counselor in advance or just sat there knowing you had already broken the agreement." "I did not lie. You spent 20 minutes talking about rebuilding trust." "And I'm trying. But you can't make rules that interfere with the business. The ledgers wouldn't be in our house if I hadn't maintained them for free. I have to go. If she enters again, I'll ask her to leave again. If she refuses, I'll get help removing her. I don't care whose key she uses." He lowered his voice further. "Do not threaten my mother." "She isn't threatened. She's unwelcome." I ended the call before he could tell me those were the same thing. At home, I found my office door open and the file cabinet unlocked. Darlene had only been inside for a minute before I spoke through the camera, but a stack of Mercer invoices had been moved from the desk to the floor. The signed vendor folder stuck out 3 inches from the cabinet. She'd known exactly where to look. I gathered every Mercer file, including the old paper ledgers, and put them in 2 banker's boxes. I taped a typed inventory to each lid and carried them into the dining room. Then I took the green glass bowl to the kitchen sink and washed it. It didn't need washing. I scrubbed the inside until my fingers went numb in the cold water. The bowl had always caught dust around the curve of its rim, and Owen usually teased me for polishing it because Keys didn't care. That afternoon, I dried it with a dish towel and returned it to the entry table. My keys made one clean sound when I dropped them in. Owen came home after 7. He saw the boxes first. "What is this? Your business records? Sign the inventory and take them to Mercer." "Where am I supposed to put them?" "Your office." "The shop office isn't secure." "Then buy a locking cabinet." He took off his coat but kept it in his hand. "Mom said you threatened to call the police." "I said I'd get help removing her if she refused to leave." "You knew she would leave." "I knew she wasn't supposed to be there. She had permission from me." "That's the problem." He dropped his coat on a dining chair. "You don't get to declare my mother banned from a house I own." "You agreed she wouldn't enter without my invitation." "I agreed under pressure." I actually stepped back. He saw it and softened his voice. "That came out wrong." "No, we've already established that things come out finished." "I agreed because you were talking about leaving me. I was talking about what staying would require." "Same thing." He began pacing around the table. The boxes forced him to take an awkward path, shortening each turn. "You moved the money," he said. "You stopped helping with the business. You embarrassed Tessa. You set conditions on my mother. At what point do you acknowledge that I live here too?" "At what point do you acknowledge that I do?" He stopped. I slid the inventory toward him with a pen. "Sign it." He read both pages as if looking for a trap. I had listed every folder, ledger, warranty, tax record, and flash drive. At the bottom was a line confirming receipt. "You really prepared this." "I told you I would." He signed. The next morning, Darlene texted at 8:47. "Are you on your way?" "My appointment is at 10. I had driven her to the same specialist every 3 months for 2 years. She disliked parking garages, and Owen always had a reason his schedule was less flexible than mine. I booked a rideshare from her condo using Owen's card on the shared household account. Then I sent her the driver's name and arrival time. She called immediately. "I'm not getting into a stranger's car." "Then you should call Owen. You know he's at the shop." "Yes." "My doctor charges a cancellation fee. The ride is 6 minutes away." "Claire, this is vindictive. I arranged transportation. You always drive me." "That arrangement has ended." Her silence was almost peaceful. "You're punishing me because I helped my son," she said. "You entered my office twice. I retrieved documents he had a right to possess." "You can discuss the difference with him during the ride." "What ride?" "The one he can give you if you cancel the car." She took the ride share. Owen found out at lunchtime and sent me a single message. "Really?" I replied. She arrived 9 minutes early. That evening, there was no Thai food, no careful washing of the coffee pot, and no mention of counseling. Owen stayed at the shop until nearly midnight. He did the same the next night. On Thursday morning, Gloria called me from Mercer. "I'm trying not to put you in the middle," she said. "Then don't." "Fair. But I need to know if you initiated a $16,000 transfer from operating." My stomach tightened. "No." "It went to Bellwether Holdings. I closed the door to my office at work." "When?" "Monday afternoon, before Darlene entered our house searching for vendor agreements, before Owen complained that my rules interfered with business." "What does the operating account look like now?" "I'm not asking you to fix it," Gloria said quickly. "I just need the revised cash projection. Owen says you have it." "I handed over the records Tuesday." "I know." "Then he has everything I have." Gloria exhaled. "Payroll is tomorrow." "How short?" "With the lumber payment that clears today, about $23,000. I looked through the glass wall of my office at people carrying coffee, opening laptops, moving through a Thursday that had not changed shape under their feet. "I'll send Owen the location of the projection," I said. "Claire, I can't authorize Mercer funds. I never could." "I know." That was what made it hurt. Owen called 3 minutes later. "I was going to tell you." "Did the $16,000 go toward Tessa's deposit?" "It kept the agreement alive. You used payroll money." I used operating cash. Those are the same dollars this week. I have receivables coming. When? Next month. What happens tomorrow? I need a bridge. The word had become almost funny. From me, I said. I need $23,000 for less than 30 days. No. You haven't even seen the projections. I've seen your projections for 5 years. That's why I'm asking you. No, that's why you should know better than to ask. His voice rose. There are 9 people expecting to get paid. You made a promise the business couldn't afford. I couldn't let Tessa lose $16,000. So you risked 9 paychecks. I'm trying to keep 2 businesses alive, with money from the one you already have. He went quiet, then he used the voice that had worked on me through broken equipment, late clients, and every cash flow emergency he described as temporary. I made a bad call, he said. I admit that. Don't make Gloria and the crew pay for it. My new account was open on my laptop before the call ended. I stared at the balance. $23,000 would still leave enough for me to start my practice, though not enough to feel safe. Owen knew that. He knew my fear of making other people absorb damage I could prevent. I entered the transfer amount. The cursor blinked in the confirmation box. Then I pictured him Wednesday at lunch, asking how much runway I needed. I pictured Darlene's lavender-taped key in the bowl and the bare brass copy in her hand. I pictured Tessa signing a contract because Owen had turned my future into his credibility. I deleted the amount. I'll send you every record you need, I said. I will not send money. Then I'll figure it out. Yes. You'd better hope I can. He hung up. For the next 2 hours, I could barely work. I imagined Gloria checking her account. I imagined vendors refusing deliveries and half-finished cabinets sitting under plastic. At noon, I drove to Mercer. The shop smelled like sawdust and lacquer. Owen was in his office with his phone pressed to his ear. He saw me through the window and turned his chair away. Gloria stood at the front counter sorting timesheets. I'm sorry, I said. You didn't move the money. I could replace it. So could he. She nodded toward the rear bay. Through the open partition, I could see the front end of Owen's blue Ford under its canvas cover. He had an offer last spring, Gloria said. He kept the number. I looked at her. He'll be furious I told you. Why did you? Because he said you were the only option. The truck was gone by Monday. Owen never told me what he accepted for it. Payroll cleared and he took a short-term loan expensive enough that he stopped discussing interest rates in my presence. Darlene came to the house that evening without entering. She stood on the porch while Owen spoke to her through a narrow opening in the door. You sold your father's truck, she said. It was my truck. It was the last thing you had that he worked on. I needed cash. Claire had cash. I was in the hallway. Darlene knew it. Owen's shoulders sagged. She said no. And you let her? He closed the door in his mother's face. For one reckless second, I thought he had finally chosen me. Then he turned and said, Mom won't borrow against the condo. I almost laughed. You asked her? I asked if she would help cover the loan. And? She says her home is her security. The words sat between us, Darlene's condo protected by the same principles she had mocked when the security belonged to me. Owen leaned against the door. There's one other option. No, you don't know what it is. If it requires my money, my labor, or my signature, the answer is no. The house has equity. I stared at him. We could refinance, he said. Clear the business loan, preserve the bellwether deal, and consolidate everything at a reasonable rate. Our house, our asset, for your ex-wife's shop. For all of us. There is no all of us in that sentence. I made an appointment with a lender for Thursday. Just listen to the terms. I'm not signing anything. Then come and say that after you hear what refusing actually costs. He walked past me toward the kitchen. On the entry table, his keys struck the green glass bowl beside mine. This time, the sound did not feel like coming home. I went to bed with the lender appointment marked on our shared calendar. Not because I intended to sign. I wanted to hear how Owen planned to turn a second mortgage into a favor for me. Tessa called the next morning from a number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail. "I need to ask you something," she said when I answered. "Was any part of the money supposed to be mine?" "I don't understand. Did you and Owen ever discuss paying me back for the early years of Mercer?" "No." "Not even generally?" "He told me you helped him build the business. He never said he owed you money." She breathed into the phone. Traffic moved behind her, horns and the rush of tires over wet pavement. "Darlene said you felt guilty." "That doesn't sound like me." "No," Tessa said. "I'm beginning to understand that." She asked to meet after work. I chose a coffee shop halfway between my office and Bellwether Flowers, public enough that neither of us could turn the conversation into a performance. I recognized her before she saw me. I'd met Tessa only twice, both times briefly, but I knew the dark red hair and the square glasses from old photographs Darlene kept, displayed long after Owen and I married. Tessa stood when I reached the table. "This is strange," she said. "Yes." "I don't know whether to shake your hand." "We can skip it." "Thank God." She had already ordered 2 coffees. Mine was black. "I didn't know what you took," she said. "Owen told me once." I sat down. Apparently nobody forgets anything in that family except boundaries. Her mouth twitched. For the first 10 minutes, she was defensive. She explained Bellwether's customer list, standing orders, supplier agreements, and the financing gap that appeared after an equipment inspection. She described the shop as if I were still deciding whether to invest. I let her finish. Then I placed copies of my account records on the table. Not every statement, just enough to show where the money came from and what I had left in the joint account. Tessa read the first page and pushed it away. He said Mercer funded most of this. He contributed $4,860. "I'm not asking you for anything." "You were 4 days ago." 4 days ago, I thought you'd agreed." She took out her phone and opened her messages with Owen. 3 weeks before our anniversary, he had written, "Claire and I have talked about using part of our runway to make things right." We had never talked about Tessa. A week later, "We can cover the gap if Bellwether's numbers hold." Then, the Wednesday he scheduled the transfer. "It's done." Claire understands this is bigger than either of us. I read that one twice. Darlene's messages were worse. "Claire has benefited enormously from what you sacrificed. She knows this is repayment, not charity. She may need a little emotional management, but Owen will handle it." I handed back the phone. "I'm sorry," Tessa said. The apology made me angry in a way Darlene's hadn't. It was plain, without a hook hidden inside it, and I suddenly saw how low my standards had fallen. "Did you ask him to use my savings?" "I asked him for a loan. He said the 2 of you could do it." She folded her hands around her cup. "I should have called you." "Yes." "I didn't want to." "Why?" "Because you're his wife. That hasn't stopped anyone else." She looked down, then laughed despite herself. "I thought you'd say no," she admitted, "and I wanted the shop more than I wanted to know why you might. It wasn't noble, but it was honest." "What happens if you walk away?" I asked. "The seller keeps $5,000 from the deposit. Escrow returns the rest." "To Mercer?" "That's where it came from." "You knew he used operating money?" "Not until Gloria called me this morning asking which invoice to attach it to." I closed my eyes. Tessa stirred her coffee, though she hadn't added anything to it. "I'm not buying Bellwether with this hanging over it," she said. "That's your decision." "I know. I'm not thanking you." I didn't ask. "I'm also not going to comfort you about the deposit." I definitely didn't ask for that. There was enough steel in her answer that I understood why she might have run a good flower shop. I also understood why Darlene missed her. Tessa had spent years making herself useful to people who confused usefulness with belonging. Before we left, she said, "Owen isn't lying when he says he feels guilty." "I know. He just prefers guilt he can pay with somebody else's money." That night, I told Owen I had met Tessa. He was standing at the kitchen counter eating leftover noodles directly from the container. His fork stopped halfway to his mouth. "She called you?" "Yes." What did she say? That you told her we had discussed repaying her. We discussed how much she did for Mercer. We discussed it once after finding an old photograph. The subject came up. Not the money. He set down the fork. So now the two of you are comparing notes. We had different notes. That's between Tessa and me. My bank statement was between you and your mother until you needed it to be between all four of us. His face reddened. Are you trying to destroy the bellwether deal? No, I'm refusing to fund it. She'll lose the deposit. She knows. You convinced her to walk away. I didn't have to. He pushed the container aside. You have no idea what that shop means to her. Neither did you. You read most of the business plan. He stared at me with something close to hatred. It passed quickly, but I saw it. By then I had spoken to a family law attorney during my lunch hour. Her office was above a pharmacy, and her desk had a stack of files tall enough to make perfection impossible. She didn't promise me the house, revenge, or a clean, emotional ending. She explained joint property, separate contributions, business records, and the slow expense of disagreeing. I paid her retainer from my protected savings. She prepared a proposed financial separation agreement. It didn't end my marriage. It stopped us from pretending the same money could serve two people making opposite decisions. I printed the document and placed it in an envelope beside Darlene's brass key. Owen had retrieved the key after I insisted. He dropped it into the green glass bowl without comment, and it landed with a duller sound than our key rings. Thursday morning, he wore the navy suit from our anniversary dinner. Darlene was waiting in the lender's lobby when I arrived. She rose from a leather chair. I came for moral support. Whose? She pressed her lips together. Owen stepped out of a glass-walled conference room before she could answer. You came, he said. I said I would. Relief softened his face. He believed showing up meant yielding. For years, it usually had. The loan officer introduced herself as Monica and gave me a folder containing the proposed terms. Owen had requested enough equity to repay the short-term business loan, restore the operating account, cover the remaining bellwether purchase gap, and keep a small reserve. He had arranged the columns beautifully. The monthly payment would be manageable if Mercer had a strong year, and if I kept my corporate job. My salary appeared in the application under stable household income. You used my income to qualify, I said. It's a joint application, Owen replied. It isn't an application until I sign. Monica folded her hands. That's correct. Owen turned the page toward me. Look at the rate. I see it. It's lower than the business loan by 9 points. I see that too. This fixes everything. It moves everything onto the house. It gives us time. For what? For Tessa to operate Bellwether, for Mercer to collect its receivables, for us to get through this. Tessa is walking away from Bellwether. He went still. What? She's canceling the purchase. When did she decide that? She was considering it yesterday. You knew and let me sit here. You scheduled a loan against our house without knowing whether the person you were financing still wanted it. He took out his phone. I'm calling her. Monica looked toward the conference room door. I placed my envelope on the table. Owen. He ignored me. Tessa answered. I could hear her voice, though the phone wasn't on speaker. It's over, she said. What did Claire say to you? Claire showed me where the money came from. You knew it was ours. You told me she agreed. She's trying to punish me. No, Owen. She stopped preventing consequences. He stood so fast his chair rolled backward. What about the deposit? The seller keeps 5. The rest goes back to Mercer. You're throwing away $5,000. You threw away more than that before I signed anything. He walked into the hallway, still arguing. Through the glass wall, I saw Darlene rise and intercept him. She took the phone from his hand. Her voice carried through the door. Tessa, don't be impulsive. You have wanted a shop for years. I looked at Monica. I'm sorry. She gave a practiced smile. I've had louder refinances. Owen came back without the phone. Darlene remained outside, speaking to Tessa with one hand cupped around her mouth. We can still use the equity to clear the loan, he said. It would stabilize Mercer. Selling the truck and returning $11,000 from escrow will stabilize Mercer. For now. I pushed the envelope toward him. What is this? A proposal to separate our finances while we decide what happens to the marriage. He didn't touch it. You brought separation papers to a lender meeting? I brought my answer. Your answer to what? To whether our house, my income, and my savings remain available every time you want to be generous. Monica quietly left the room. Owen looked through the glass at his mother, then back at the envelope. I sold my truck. After I refused to replace the money you took, I did what I had to do. So did I. His voice cracked. Is this really worth ending our marriage? I placed the brass key on top of the envelope. You gave this back to her after promising me you wouldn't. She's my mother. I'm your wife. I was trying to keep everyone together. You kept everyone together by making me the part that had to stretch. He sat down slowly. All I wanted was one chance to make something right, he said. You had one. You could have apologized to Tessa years ago. You could have paid her from your profits. You could have sold the truck before touching the business account. You could have asked me. I knew you'd say no. That was my right. Darlene opened the conference room door. This has gone far enough, she said. Owen made a mistake out of kindness. You've sold his truck, damaged his company, ruined Tessa's purchase, and now you're threatening his home. Owen looked at her. She didn't sell the truck, he said. Darlene blinked. She didn't move the operating money either, he continued, and she didn't tell Tessa they'd agreed. His mother's face hardened. I am trying to defend you. I know. Something in the way he said it made her step back. I picked up my purse. I'm not signing the loan, I said. My attorney's number is in the envelope. Owen's hand closed around the copied key. I left him holding it. He signed the financial separation agreement 9 days later. We stayed in the same house for another month, sleeping in different rooms and communicating through a calendar that no longer contained Darlene's appointments or Mercer deadlines. Counseling continued briefly. Owen finally said he had spent most of his life trying to become the man his mother insisted he already was, loyal, generous, indispensable. Admitting he couldn't save someone felt worse to him than taking from someone who trusted him. Understanding it did not make living with it safer. We agreed to sell the house. Mercer survived. Owen reduced the size of the shop, stopped bidding on projects that required cash he didn't have, and hired a bookkeeper whose invoices arrived every month with payment terms in bold. Darlene stopped visiting the shop when he refused to let her help with the office. Tessa lost $5,000 and bellwether. She returned the remaining $11,000 to Mercer through escrow and found work managing floral operations for a hotel. We exchanged 2 messages after that. Neither contained gratitude. My savings paid for the attorney, the deposit on a small office, and eventually part of a condo with uneven floors and morning light across the kitchen. On moving day, Owen carried the green glass bowl to my car. You should take this, he said. We bought it together. You're the one who always cleaned it. I looked at him over the rim of the bowl. He almost smiled. I know, that's not the point. It was as close as we came to joking. That evening, I set the bowl on a narrow table beside my new door. The room still smelled like fresh paint, and half my life remained sealed in cardboard. I dropped my office key into the glass, then my home key. 2 clear notes rang through the quiet, both of them mine.